Welcome in, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. Happy Monday, guys. How was your weekend?
You go first, Pags.
I was down in Cape May for the weekend, and then obviously I went to Fanatics Fest yesterday. So I spent my Sunday up in New York City, and that was interesting. It was not bad. It's not as many people on Sunday as there is on a Saturday or whatever, and it's interesting to kind of see all the different cards, and it's like ripping cards is a thing.
Yes.
It's a thing, and it's amazing how like that has become a very, very, very big deal.
It's funny because there's so many just like TikTok channels dedicated to opening packs, which is that seems crazy to me.
You know what? And the card industry has become so interesting in terms of, like, for instance, and I'm gonna talk up my buddy here a little bit. So my buddy's an artist. His name's Jordan Spector, does Spector art.
Okay.
And he has set up a deal with Brandon Graham, and they are Brandon Graham is taking his Super Bowl jersey and his cleats, and they are going to cut them and put them into cards.
Oh, okay.
So now, I mean, obviously, this is something that's been going on now for a little bit. It's like it's how the card game has really changed tremendously. This isn't your the 1980s Tops and Fleer and Dunross
Exactly.
cards that you're getting anymore. You are getting signatures, and like I said, they're taking jerseys, and they're taking like they're going to be able to cut up his Super Bowl jersey into somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 to 1,500 pieces.
Yeah.
So, and you could get like a square of cloth, or you could get a square of like the eagle's eye, or like maybe a square of the patch that says, that he played in Super Bowl 59.
How do they do that though? Like, they take the card and put the fabric in and then like lament over it? How does that work?
You see, now you're asking me questions that I can't answer there. I don't know.
I'm just curious. That blows my mind. I guess my mind goes to like.
However, it might be something that I get to witness this time around, because it would be something to kind of talk to about. Like hey,
for sure.
Well, I mean, it would have to be, Jay, because otherwise the piece would just be floating around in the pack, right? So like it would have to be laminated to the card somehow. But I mean, that's the biggest thing from when we collected cards as a kid to the way they are now is they're pieces of art now, whereas before they were trading cards.
Right. Well, that's true. That's very true.
And I think about the only thing back in the 80s and early 90s that was anything worth collectible was the wall. If you remember, they used to sell rocks, like pieces of the wall. Right. And they were selling them. The truth of the matter is, I don't even believe that they were pieces of the wall. I think that they were just pieces of concrete that they were in there. Like that's, I mean, because I mean, if you took all the pieces of the wall that they sold, you would find out that you could have the Great Wall of China, not
not the Berlin Wall.
That being said, there was no way to verify.
That's correct.
Hey, Joe, I found this in the backyard.
Interestingly enough, in the 70s, that was another thing that they were doing. They were selling pieces of the cross. You would get a piece of a little piece of wood, and it was part of the cross that Jesus was crucified on.
Yeah.
And they were selling pieces of that. Well, they had to put a kibosh on that pretty quickly because, it was, manufactured in Taiwan.
Somebody's burning in hell for selling a cross. I'm just saying, somebody's burning in hell.
Hey, kudos to them for outsourcing it even back then.
Yeah. The original piece of the cross made in Taiwan.
I just think somebody's burning in hell for selling a piece of the artificial or fake cross. I just somebody's burning in hell.
I mean,
question, hey, did you get to see Kevin? Because Kevin Durant was actually at Fanatics Festival. Did you see him?
No, he was there on Saturday. He wasn't there on Sunday.
Okay. Okay.
So, and he was there actually when the trade went down.
Yeah. He was actually in an interview, right?
He was doing an interview, and they says, "All right, some news just came across that they traded it to Houston for a bag of peanuts, and I think the I don't know, the aglet of one of Michael Jordan's sneakers."
Yeah. Well, I didn't really. The part. Well, I guess we'll talk about the trade. The part of the trade that didn't bother me was the second round picks. Maybe you get a lucky gem, maybe you don't.
Well, they gave up your first round pick this year.
Exactly, and that is there's two things that bother me. The fact that we gave up the number 10 pick bothers me immensely. Second thing is, I know Jalen Green didn't perform all that well against Golden State. But I felt like we gave up on him way too soon. He's still young. He still has a lot to grow and mature into. And I felt like we gave up on him way too soon. The Dylan Brooks piece of it, that doesn't bother me. The second round picks doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that we gave up on a number 2 pick who has promise, can be something, needs to be worked on a few things, polished up a little bit, and the number 10 pick. Like, what are you, for a 36-year-old son of a gun, and I'm not even going to curse. I really want to, but I'm not. A son of a gun that may or may not do anything for us. It didn't move the needle. We're not going to go any higher than the number 2 spot. We're not going to get into the finals. Hell, we may not even sit at the Western Conference Finals.
See, I actually disagree with what you're talking about, and I'm not the biggest basketball fan. But the one thing that Durant has is that he does have that one ring, and even though it was with Golden State,
he's got 2. He's got 2.
He's got 2 rings.
Yeah.
Who's the second one with?
They're both with Golden State. He won. They won back to back. They won back. He got 2 finals MVPs.
I mean, ultimately, when you have an entire team, which is what we kind of talked about before this season, before this playoffs began, that when you have an entire team that has not made it over the hill, like hasn't figured out how to get past, and win the championship. You need somebody to be able to help you to do that. And I don't think that he's a bad choice to make happen to do that. You didn't really give up a tremendous amount. You guys think you might, and that first round pick, it makes it seem like a much bigger thing. But the truth of the matter is that you guys didn't really give up a lot. I mean, the trades with him lately have been a lot higher. And you guys are.
Oh, not. Yeah. Well, his market value, though, because of his age, his market value has really dipped a little bit. But my biggest concern with Durant, he doesn't have to be a leader. He's never been a leader. Matter of fact, I don't think he wants to be. I think he plays better when he's not the leader. I think he plays better when he just goes out there and balls and nobody puts that pressure on him. I think the Steph Curry with Golden State, I think, really showed that. The problem I have with Durant,
the fact that he's done that everywhere he's been. Anywhere he's had to be the guy, it hasn't worked out.
Exactly. So we don't need him to be the guy. I think we got Fred VanVleet for that. We got other people that can do that. What we need to remember is to go out there and play. But the problem I have with Durant, the big problem I have with Durant, is his age and his lack or his injury prone, because he is older and he has missed time on the court. Those things bother me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like I said, I think that it's not the worst trade in the world. I don't think that you gave up too much. Like I said, the one guy in the first round pick sounds about right for what he got, and you're getting somebody who's like, really, you only need 28 minutes from him a night. You don't need anything crazy. Like 25 minutes a night would be enough, and that's literally half. That's a half that you need from him. And I think that that's actually all that you need. And I, like, you guys weren't that far away from where OKC is. That obviously, you could say whatever you want. I mean, Halliburton, having that thing in his leg. Like you watching that occur, like I only saw the clip of it, and I had to find out afterwards that they had won. But that's a shame that Halliburton had that occur.
You know, the thing that's crazy about it is I don't know if this is a cause of it there, Jamie, the low top shoes, although there are a lot more of them now. But it's crazy that there was 3 Achilles in this postseason alone.
Yeah.
Like there is absolutely something that's changed with conditioning, stretching, something that is, right. I mean, because we're watching an incredible rise of Achilles tears. And I mean, when you have 3 guys in a single NBA postseason, that's crazy.
It is. And to Jamie's point, I don't know why they don't go back to wearing high tops. They absolutely should be wearing high tops to hopefully give a little bit of prevention to those Achilles type tears. The second thing is, and I said this, and I know that Halliburton wouldn't be out there. I knew he would have done anything to be out there on that court. But this is what happened to him was exactly what I was worried about, is that you go out there, you keep pushing an injury that you know has been bothering you for some time now. And it got really, really bad when he couldn't, I was in game 6, I believe it was, or no, game 5, excuse me, game 5, where he was grabbing that calf. And I'm like, bro, you got to sit, man. I know you want to be out there, but and now he's going to be gone for what, a year? So we're not going to see him next year. We won't see him back until 27.
Well, you might get him back just in time for the playoffs next year. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, he's done for a year with this thing. A high top isn't going to protect your Achilles really. It protects your ankle, but I mean the Achilles, those usually pop because of a tightness to them. Is usually how that works. And when you see calf injuries, that's why Achilles tend to pop afterwards, because those calf injuries tighten the muscle, right, which puts strain on, the rubber band of your Achilles. So,
do you think though when he was having those calf issues and it was tightening up and he's grabbing it and they're giving him treatment, they're doing all this, do you think at some point a doctor, before he went out there to play game 7, do you think a team doctor, whoever approached him and gave him some advice like, hey, look, this is what you're facing. If you go to game 7 and this is a possibility that an Achilles could tear on you. Do you think that he got any kind of advice about that? Or do you think they just let him go out there and?
I mean, the thing is before the Achilles pops, it's muscle tightness. Like it is what it is. Some guys can play through it. Most of the time you can play through it. Occasionally the Achilles pops. So, I mean, if you're the team doctor and the player says, hey, I want to go, I can go. It's not like you get to see when that Achilles is going to pop, right? Like you don't know if it's going to or not. So as the team doctor, I don't know that you can necessarily be like anything more than this could happen.
With the flexible tape that they have, and stuff like that, I'm surprised that they don't use more of that. And like as a player, you wouldn't want to protect that area. Again, this is going to sound ridiculous that I'm actually bringing up arm wrestling with this, but when you arm wrestle, and so if you're arm wrestling with your right arm, the actual muscle, once it finishes doing everything it does, ends in your glute. So, and it actually ends, like if you're going right hand, it's in your left butt cheek and your back. So that if you realize that and start to engage in your back rather than your arm, you're going to win most of these matches, because there's no way that anybody's going to beat you because you've already got too much leverage. And doing that type of stuff. It's the same thing with this. If you have a calf injury, ultimately the end spot of that is your Achilles.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to put on some of that flex tape to be able to kind of get through some of the stuff that you want to get through, to be able to kind of create like an exoskeleton or exo and like an exo muscle, so that you can use other parts of, like you can use the tape as part of the muscle group to be able to hold everything in place and such. I mean, these guys aren't doing the stretches right anymore. I mean, like they're not doing any of the calisthenics to be able to loosen up and things like that. Like how often I used to see back in the 80s and 90s where I don't even know what it's called, but like you're laying on the ground, you have one leg straight out and you have one leg bent kind of behind you and you're in your back, and then you start reaching for your one leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're kind of doing those stretches and stuff like that. And that was meant to be able to stretch everything from your lower half.
Yep.
Yeah. I just,
and it's funny because, injuries that I had playing football, I used a ton of athletic tape and kinesio tape.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and like I remember, I mean, these basketball players used to get their ankles taped up a lot. Like they almost would want to be like Frankenstein. Because they don't want your ankle to move. Actually, that's like the one thing you almost want, like hard planted. Like it's just like you're off of the balls of your feet, like on your toes and stuff like that a lot of the time. So when you're on your ankle, you want that to be just straight platform.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, if you look at across the board on a lot of these sports, though, the fundamentals, right? The fundamentals of stretching, the fundamentals of warming up, the fundamentals of even how you play the game, everything has changed so much from the 80s and 90s to where it is now, Pags. It's not even, I don't even, like you said, I don't recognize. I remember we used to go to the pre-games and with basketball, baseball, even football, and you'd watch all that. And no, there's none of that anymore. Hardly, or if there is, it's very minimal. Very minimal.
It's very minimal, even in football, right? Like it used to be when you went to a pregame, you'd watch a half hour of stretching and whatever, and it's like 5 minutes of it, and they're done.
Well, you know what? That's what's interesting about the Eagles is that they don't do a lot of contact, but they do a tremendous amount of stretching. Well, and the truth of the matter is that they've had very few injuries. I mean, they have been one of the teams over the last 3 or 4 years that have had so few injuries that it's made a difference. When you only have one guy missing from your starting lineup in the Super Bowl after playing 21 games, that's a monster. That's a monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, hey, everybody's there. It's like, and that's maybe it's because of the way that they are taking advantage of the straight. Like, hey, listen, you guys don't want to hit, that's fine. But we are going to make sure that our cardio is high and that our stretching is high, is that we are going to be very limber here so that we don't have Achilles tears. We do not have MCLs and ACLs and LCLs and stuff like that. Like it's like those are the things that destroy a team because it just brings morale down. Because when somebody gets hurt, when somebody tears their ACL, the truth of the matter is that everybody else gets a little nervous that they're going to tear their ACL. It becomes a subliminal type of situation, and you are almost going. If you were going at 100%, now you're going at like 96. And it's just, and that little bit makes a difference because of it's just a natural fear. Because you think about it, you just see about it. It's just like, it's like, oh, that guy's season is over, and I am just that far away.
And that makes me think, with all the money that these teams and these ownership groups are pouring into their athletes, right? These big mega contracts and all this, that, and the other. How much blame should be put on these trainers not doing what they're supposed to be doing with these athletes and having them do all the things that they're doing? And why are these ownership groups not having more responsibility into their athletes to do those types of stretches? As much as it is in the game, we need you to do all of these X, Y's, and Z's.
So it's definitely the ownership group. It goes into the executive group for the answer to that. If you remember back in the Chip Kelly days, there were a lot of Eagles that were getting hurt, and he changed the whole safety staff and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, in 2017, so Chip Kelly was gone. They got rid of him in 15. 2016, you have Doug Peterson, but they had a lot of his training staff. 2017, they changed out the training staff, and it stopped with a lot of the injuries. And that's so it's on the executives to be able to do this. The truth of the matter is that all of these teams now use science. So it's a matter of what science you're going to back. It becomes a matter of what God are you going to pray to, and ultimately, because that's the way that this is. You got to accept this like a religion, because this is how you are training your entire team. They all got to buy into it, and they all got to believe in it. So it's very much like a religion there. You have to be able to have and prove that the science works the way that you want it to, so that it's protecting your players. As of right now, the Eagles are the one team that has gone the most without the injuries. I mean, they've had a couple here and there, but for the most part, like I said, when you have only one guy out of your, out of the 22 starters, you have one starter out in a Super Bowl. I mean, some of that's luck, but a lot of that is preparation.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like the ownership groups should be talking to these trainers and saying, look, we need these guys. It's like a car. I'm not like, Bo, you're a mechanic. I'm not going to go out there in my car and not do my maintenance. If I do my maintenance, at some point it's going to break down. There's not a car out there that's not going to break down if I do my routine maintenance. Same thing with these athletes. Your body is your instrument. That is your job, is to take care of your body and learn the plays and execute. And you can't execute if you're not doing your oil changes. And I don't understand why these trainers, I feel like they should be held more accountable for what goes on with these athletes. I feel like there's not, like you said, we go out, we see it, but I don't think they're being held accountable to protect these athletes' bodies, because I don't think the athlete understands. Sometimes I don't think they understand all what they need to do to protect their body.
Well, I mean, the thing is, maybe they don't, but there's enough evidence of the guys that do, that if you were a younger guy, you should look at the LeBrons and the Tom Bradys and the guys have been able to survive their crafts for so many years, because what's the one thing they all have in common? They spend a ton of money and effort on their body.
Correct.
Right. So like, if you want to last, you got to look at the guys that have lasted. Right. Now I get you got your payday and you want to go party and do dumb stuff. Cool. We're all young. We get it. At the same time, if you want to be able to keep doing that, it's easier if you stay on the field and keep making money. Right. So you got to look at these guys that have been able to last, and not to say that those guys don't get hurt also, but they're not out as long and they get hurt less often. And so, I mean, those are the things that those younger players should be looking at.
Right. Because, we look at the LeBrons, like you said, we look at the LeBrons and the Tom Bradys and all the money that they put into their body. Like, I know LeBron was putting $1 million worth of therapy and things like that into his body. I'm sure Tom was doing the same thing. And that's why these guys are going into their 40s, still playing at a pretty good level, and like you said, their injury is minimal. And because
this also goes into when they started to deal with this and how they started to train like this. For instance, and this is I'm going to go back to even a more ridiculous type of example here. You have a child, and the child is 3 years old, and you have to start to train them to brush their teeth. Brush your teeth, brush their teeth, brush their teeth. If they don't brush their teeth, it's at 16 years old or 15 years old when they start having all of their adult teeth, and they're not spending the time and taking care of their teeth. You start having a lot of cavities. You start having root canals and things of that nature, where a child who maybe brushes once or twice a day doesn't have those situations. And it's a very similar situation going on in, once these guys get their money, and now they're getting it sooner. So now it's actually going to create this problem in an earlier sense, I think, because you have some of these guys that are getting the NIL money who feel that they are naturally gifted, that they go by the mantra, hey, well, the gazelle doesn't have to stretch before it runs away from the lion, but the gazelle also doesn't ever sit the freak down. You know what I mean?
They also don't live very long.
Yeah. So, but you understand that thought process on that. Like, it's like, there's so much that goes into that. And that mentality is that you're a god. And that, well, because I'm a god, I cannot get hurt and I will not have these issues and problems. And I mean, ultimately, think about Damar Hamlin and how much of his routine changed because of what occurred.
Sure.
Now, I mean, obviously, he was, the one end of the spectrum type of situation here.
Sure.
But he was doing certain things that almost led to what occurred. Now, all of a sudden, he has changed his entire lifestyle in terms of being able to deal with things now. And, he's still out there. He's still doing his thing. But I mean, ultimately, it's the same situation. You gotta do it, and you gotta start early, and you have to start to be trained right. Like LeBron James was doing this at age 16, 17, and he spent the money to learn the right habits to do it. And now he's got $1 billion and going to be trying to find a new team because him and Bronny are about to get booted from the Lakers.
I real quick, I had a friend of mine come on the podcast many years ago, probably about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. His name was Joe Stevens. He played for the Rockets, Grizzlies, Utah Jazz, and he played a lot of overseas basketball as well. And matter of fact, his roommate when he was in college was Derek Fisher. And one of the things he told me on the podcast, and I really believe it, and it really kind of goes back to even the issue with Halliburton or what happened to Halliburton, was he said, Jay, the body only has so many jumps in it. You got so many jumps and you're done. Your body's going to be done.
That's not true either. I feel like that number can absolutely fluctuate depending on how it is that you are dealing with, the time when you're not jumping. Like I said,
I don't know, man. I mean, he's an
garbage
NBA,
all the time.
player.
Garbage is going to be part of your life.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I'm on the other side of that. I do think that your body has a certain amount before it's done, because everything weakens over time. So I mean, and I'm not trying to argue. I mean, I'm not trying to argue, but I feel like with Halliburton though, the signs were there. The signs were there that something was getting ready to happen. He had been dealing with it for a little while. I felt like somebody. I know how much you want to play, and like you said, it goes back to, well, these guys think they're gods and don't think that's going to happen to them. Somebody has to go to them and say, look, you're not a god. You're still a mortal human being, and you're not going to go out there, because I know that at some point something like this is going to happen or could happen. And now that they didn't have that covered or didn't limit him or didn't pull him back, now they've lost him not only for that one, but they lost him for the next year. So they lost more than just this. Now they lost the next one.
Yeah, you're talking about the last game of a championship series. I mean, you're not going to convince a player that feels like he can go that you can't go because there's a chance something could happen, right? Like, I mean, no player's going to accept that. They're going to be like,
and I get that. No, I understand they're competitors. I understand that they're not going to accept it. That's actually the point I'm making. Somebody above them has to say, no, you're not going, because I'm paying your salary and I need you next year. I do. I need you next year, guy.
Yeah, they're not saying that. They're not saying that in game 7.
They are not saying that.
They are not saying that in game 7. And I don't care what you think. Yeah. Like that, they are absolutely not saying that. Yeah. They are saying, hey, listen, you got to leave it all out there. I mean, ultimately, and that's what he did. He did. He left it all out there, and it's,
there's no guarantee you make it back. So of course you're gonna, right? I mean, Dan Marino is the best example of that. He gets there in his rookie season or his second season, and then never touched it again.
I understand. Right? I understand what you're saying. I understand all the points you're making. And they're good, valid points. I get it. I just feel bad for Halliburton.
Let's face it. I feel like that the Pacers got lucky with how the teams that they had to go up against performed. I mean, it was like that's how that worked. I mean, think about this. Would they have played the same way against the Celtics? And if the Celtics weren't hurt against the Knicks, would the Knicks have won that series? I don't think so. I think that the Knicks probably would have lost that series, especially because of the way that they played against the Pacers to begin with. So I think that the Celtics really were the one team. And what happened in the middle of Cleveland? Like the Pacers beat Cleveland, correct? Was they the ones that beat
Was
Cleveland?
that the first?
Yes,
Was that
Pacers beat Cleveland. Yes.
Yeah, in the second round. So
Yeah.
it's like, Cleveland, who was the top team throughout the entire season, all of a sudden poops the bed. It's in the second round. So again, it kind of falls into the same Houston situation where you just don't know. When things start to go bad and you start to have some of the um, the issues, and you gotta the adversity, when and you have to get over the adversity and change the dynamic and feel of a game and stuff like that, and you don't have somebody who knows how to do that, they're not going to do it. And that's kind of what happened with Cleveland. So where Halliburton does have that a little bit, unfortunately he wasn't there in the fourth quarter. So you wind up having the lamest celebration after a championship that I've ever seen. But I mean, was it not? That was about as lame as could be. I mean, you know what? It reminded me of when the Rams won, and the cameras like ABC or whoever it was, Fox, showed the tens of people that were out there on the streets, blocking up this one half of an intersection, that cars were still able to turn and stuff like that. But they were like, hey, don't interrupt these 6 people celebrating. It was very similar. Like they had everything masked off.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't see anything. Like, I don't know if anything happened, but I was, the videos I saw, they were like, yeah, hey, woohoo, nice win, guys.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I was driving back from Seattle, so I didn't get to see any of the Game 7.
Yeah, me neither. So, but unfortunately, you were the one that came out with the fact that that Halliburton was hurt.
Yeah,
I saw that come from your text.
Oh, am I? Yeah.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I didn't know anything about it. That about the time that text came through was right about halftime for the Storm game. So I didn't. I wasn't seeing any of it.
Yeah, it was. What's funny to me is like I know we're talking about like the path. If like how would they match up? You were talking about how would they match up against the Celtics? How would they match up against other teams going to the playoff route? And I got a couple of buddies of mine that I podcast with that are diehard Pacer fans. And the one thing they always say is, and they've been saying, "Oh, Pacers get no respect. The media doesn't respect Indiana. The fans don't respect it. Nobody respects Indiana." And I'm like, well, you're right. Really, nobody. And it's kind of funny when I hear you say that, Bags, about it. They went it this way. Would they have made it there? The first thing in my mind was, man, if Gonzo was here, he'd be like, "See, I told you, Jay, we get no respect."
Well, and that's because they really weren't a team that should have been there. They were what, a 6th seed, right?
4th seed, yeah.
Overachieving, no question.
Yeah, so it was overachieving, but also had to deal with injuries. I mean, it's
right.
There was the injury. There was an Achilles in the Celtics series, correct? That's why the Knicks won. You know what I mean? So
Tatum went down with that injury.
A big
I remember.
Deal. So and he went down in Game 3.
Right. Was Tatum an Achilles as well?
Yes.
Okay, it wasn't Achilles. Was it full torn or was it just?
Yes. Yeah, full torn. So there's 3 Achilles that went down in the NBA playoffs. The other one was Lillard, right, from Miami.
Right. Oh, my Milwaukee. Right. Yeah.
So it all randomly wearing the number 0. So that's kind of weird.
I probably wouldn't take that number again. Then I'd probably get rid of that damn number. I'm burning that number.
Switching jerseys for sure. That's why I opened it up with that, because it was just like, it's crazy to see how many more Achilles. I mean, we've talked about it before, how it's been across all sports, but now you're looking at just the NBA playoffs, there's 3.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because you're right, because we had the number of Achilles this year in the NBA, and look at all the Tommy Johns we just had this year in MLB. I mean, it's, both are ligament issues, and it's like, it's crazy, I mean, I know for a fact the Astros got 4 or 5 Tommy Johns on their roster right now. It's crazy. Yeah. And Burns just went down with a Tommy John this year with the Diamondbacks. Crazy.
Yeah, and when you look at the NFL, there's been a big uptick over the last 5 years of Achilles tears. And I mean, so it's, and that's why I think it has to be a conditioning thing, right? I mean, there's something that's shifted. Now, the ACL tears and stuff like that, a lot of times that is just, a rotational movement that, pops. And there's not a lot you can do about that one. But when you're talking about things like Achilles and, tendons that you can directly affect.
Here you go. Not for nothing. 3 players from the Indiana Pacers reportedly tore their Achilles tendon during the 2025 NBA playoffs. James Wiseman, Isaiah Jackson, and Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
That's something very weird.
Wow.
So it's.
I didn't know Wiseman had torn his Achilles. That's crazy.
So that all of a sudden you are looking at your strength and conditioning team for sure.
Oh yeah. Or you're looking at getting you're looking at getting a brand new strength and conditioning team to come in, because that's crazy.
Well, and I mean, when you think percentage wise of an NBA team, like that's a high percentage of players going down with that same injury.
What's the total number on the roster? What is it, like 11? With your bench?
12. There's 12 on the roster.
Okay. Wow. That is a big percentage.
Right?
That's almost a fourth of their team.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. No, that's I didn't realize they had a couple other guys that also tore it. Like that's
I went to look it up because I actually was trying to find out how many Achilles tears were there in total,
right,
throughout all professional sports. And unfortunately I can't do 2 things at once. Just being on here is taking up a lot of
bandwidth. Yeah, no, it always does.
So, but it doesn't give me, MLB doesn't give those types of stats. And then their USA Today actually wrote something about it today. 4 theories on why there's so many NBA Achilles tears lately.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like it's a big deal. It's these players are doing their thing here, and it's there it is. Maybe just maybe goes back to the basic stretch.
They need to have those damn strength and conditioning bands. They look like big, ginormous rubber bands, and you put it on the end of that toe, and you pull it back to stretch out that Achilles and that calf.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do, on the stairs, stadium stairs, right? You'd do calf hangs off the stair, and then do toe raise, right? And you'd sit there and work that calf muscle. Like that was a thing.
Yeah.
You don't see guys doing any of that stuff anymore.
No, hell no. And to go back to your point, Pags, about science, they should have all these implements and all these devices out there to help them do what they need to do. And I don't know what kind of money they're putting into it, but
so this goes back to the analytics of things. This goes back to actual analytics of stuff. So ultimately, you want to try to maximize all the stuff that you get your players to do. So if there is a calisthenic that is going to hit 8 muscle groups rather than 4, you want to hit all 8. And so you have them do that calisthenic. Well, it's possible that you miss the Achilles in the process of that. Like, I never see basketball guys stretch like that, like that anymore. Like, I just don't see them do it.
Right.
And it's like, it's maybe because they're so used to not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're doing it in the locker room, they're not, right? Because you don't see them in pregame shoot around stretch anymore. You used to, like that used to be a thing, right? Like you'd
I
see
remember
guys
that.
do stretching drills and then do their shoot around and stuff like that. You don't see them do any of that anymore. So unless they're back there in the training room or in the locker room doing it before they run out, it's kind of
I
safe
remember
to
watching
assume.
them lay down, and the trainer would be right up there where their feet is. Their trainer would be pushing them legs up in the air and back and all that. And yeah, I don't see any of that now.
Yeah, that's and the other thing that I kind of feel is like this cold therapy. I am not sold on that as much as I used to be. Where you put you do the ice bath, and I think the ice bath after a game kind of does something because it brings your body temperature back down quickly and gets gets some of those things started. But then they have these cryogenic chambers that were supposed to be able to create these situations in your body where you're putting your body into a cold shock that makes it do certain things to give certain repairs. I don't believe that that's doing what it's supposed to be doing anymore. Like, I think that I think that they have put a certain trust in that science that isn't really there.
Yeah, I mean, ice baths definitely help, like after a game, reduce inflammation, stuff like that. Like those types of things do work. The cryo chamber, I don't know. I can't say that I ever did one. So
But you think about the 60s and 70s and even the 80s where there wasn't anywhere near the injuries that are happening now. The injuries since the year 2000 have really gone much, much higher. And of course, they're taking away a lot of, hey, well, you can't do this, you can't do this. We're only going to give you a certain amount of time to deal with this. Where back, if you were the Eagles in the 70s, you were getting 2-a-days. If you wanted to be a Philadelphia Eagle, this is how you had to do it. Well, the NFL had to step in to make rules because people were whining and crying. It's like, oh, well, this team was working harder than I was, so that's unfair.
yeah, well, and it's funny because you think back to how much they limit stuff. When you were doing 2-a-days, you also hit every day at practice. Like there wasn't 90% of your practices are in a helmet and shorts and a t-shirt. Like you were padded and you hit almost every single day of practice. Like your walkthrough day was the one day you didn't hit because they wanted you to not be bruised up for the game. Right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, you hit, right? Like you did form tackles, you did Oklahoma drills, like you were hitting bull in the ring, like you did all of those things all week. And then your walkthrough day was your helmet and shorts day, and then you went and played. But yeah, the fact that they have half a dozen like real hitting days all preseason is wild.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you gotta imagine that's
getting
what
there early,
injuries.
it's very specific time. Like, God forbid you want to try to get an extra week in of stuff, can't do it. It's like illegal now. Like, it's like these teams used to be able. You want to know why the Dallas Cowboys were so good? Because they made them come in and practice all the friggin' time. That's what brought the Dallas Cowboys to win the 5 Super Bowls they did. Because when you go think about it, and really the truth of the matter is that Tom Landry was an asshole.
He
was really tough on his players.
Yeah.
Just like Bear Bryant.
But you know what? You won championships. That's what happened. So same thing with the Steelers. You want to win championships, you got to work more than everybody else. And that's what would happen. And that's how the Cowboys won it. That's how the Steelers won it.
And
now
that's exactly how we lost so many draft picks the first few years of Pete Carroll being here in Seattle. Is we practiced harder than everyone else, and it went against league guidelines. We lost draft picks for the first 4 years that he was here because we would have too much hitting. We would have unscheduled practices that, again, also had hitting. Like, we did all those things, and then what happened in those first few years? 2 Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now that you have the Eagles doing something different, you have Kansas City doing something different, and interestingly enough, obviously there's a tie there between Andy Reid and the way that things were done in comparison to the way the Eagles are doing things. There's a whole thought process. It cracks me up that the NFL is trying to take certain measures to make it, when they are starting to change the rules of the game to take away an advantage that they feel that you have. And it's not just the tush push. I mean, they are starting to figure out how to deal with the cap better, so that they're going to change the rules of the cap and the capology, because Howie is the best at it, by far the best at it. And that other teams are upset because they can't do the same things that he can do. It's because he learned the rules, and he's staying within the rules. Now they're going to change the rules so that it makes it more fair. But the truth of the matter, it ain't making it more fair. It's bringing it's cheating for everybody else is really what that comes down to. It's cheating for all these teams that don't want to put in the work. I don't know if cheating is a good word, but it's rewarding less work.
Excuse me. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the biggest thing is you're rewarding teams that aren't putting in the work. And that's, it's counterintuitive. The team that wins should be the team that outworks the other team.
You could say, if you want to use the word cheated, that you are being cheated. The Philadelphia Eagles are being cheated out of the ability to do what they knew was working for them. And the fact that nobody else wanted to do it, it does cheat the Eagles, because now you have to conform to what everybody else is doing. So you're right. It's cheating you, but rewarding everybody else.
It's not really cheating, because obviously we're talking about rules of a game.
Right.
So ultimately it's like everybody's got to abide by the rules. And yes, there are rules that change all the time. Hey, listen, the last time I think about, when you think about big rules that change the games. So like in the NHL with the 4-on-4 hockey, they had to get rid of it because the Edmonton Oilers won 4 Stanley Cups doing that specifically. Let's cause a penalty. Let's do congruent minors with these 2 roughing calls, and then let's put out Yari Curry, Paul Coffey, Wayne Gretzky, and Mark Messier on a line, and let's see what 4 you're going to have to be able to stop them.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why. I mean, how do you think he scored so many goals? He scored. Wayne Gretzky, when he scored 92 goals in a season, he scored. I think there was like 38 to 40 of those goals 4-on-4.
Sure.
Because there was all that extra ice that he had. And I mean, let's face it as well. He also had where like you could have like a periphery of 180 degrees. He actually had it proud of that. He had it somewhere in the neighborhood of like 220, 230. So he was able to kind of see behind like a 90-degree angle. He was able to see it at like 110-degree angle. Which it's like having eyes in the back of your head.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's part of the reasons why he was so great at being able to assist and score and stuff like that.
Well, and, you know, it also helped that he was just really smart about the way he played. Also, you know, one of his more famous comments is he's like, I would always skate to where the puck is going to be, right? Instead of reacting to the puck, he'd be looking at where it's going. And so that would put him in position to do a lot of things where a lot of guys were playing very reactive. So, you know, some of that plays into it in a huge way as well.
Yeah, exactly. But so listen, while we only have 10 minutes left, I gotta find out. I gotta hear, how was being at the Storm?
So it was a blast. So you know, working the game was great. Obviously, you know, I got to get down onto the floor there to do a promo and stuff, so that was fun. I was set up in the media tables. So man, if there's a spot to watch a game, it's from the media tables. Like those seats are way more comfortable than the stadium seats. But it was a sellout crowd, so it was loud. The, you know, atmosphere was electric. You had Breonna Stewart coming back to town with the New York Liberty. Liberty is third in the standings. Storm is fifth, so it was a top caliber game. And yeah, no, it was a blast. Hopefully, I'll get to work some more of them. I have to apply for these games one at a time, so you know it's just as I get approved for them. But no, it was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun. Obviously, going to the pressers there in the building and everything. Yeah, no, it was a blast. So I will go to as many of them as they'll let me go to.
And we weren't getting lost in the building. We knew exactly where to go this time.
No, I'll probably still get lost in the building a little bit. You know, it was cool because there were other media members there that like I wasn't fronting in any way. I was just like, I don't know where I'm going. Like, what do I do? And then I got to talk to you know, both of the communication and operation directors for the Storm, which are the ones that have allowed me to come. And so I got to actually meet them. And so no, like it was great. I did mess up my timing a little bit on a couple of things, so I missed the press conference with the coach of the Liberty. I had it written down in my notes as after the Storms. It was actually before it, so missed that one completely. But yeah, no, I mean, the first time in a building though is always, you know, just trying to figure stuff out. And there's some things that I still not really sure where it is. But you know, that's a quest for next time.
Right. That's awesome. Okay. You are learning every time you go there. You're learning.
No, I mean, honestly, that is absolutely what I love about doing this.
Well, I look to see some of these reports on our show now. Like, I want to see, like, hey, this is, you know, this is the report from the game, and
yeah. So, I mean, to touch on some of those is Seattle has quietly become the best shooting team in the league. They lead in efficiency on offense, not just from the field, but also from the three-point arc. This wasn't their best shooting game. They were shooting down in I think they wrapped the game up at about 42%. So that's down over the last few games. But when you look at what it was early in, they were a really inconsistent shooting team. Like they'd have moments where they looked good, and then, you know, they would fall apart. Over the last 5 or 6 games, they've really kind of dialed that in and are, you know, right there at the top when it comes to offensive efficiency. The thing that has probably carried them the most, though, is the fact that their defense ranked top 5, but Gabby Wilson leads the league in steals, right? Ezzy is third in blocks per game. And so although the entire defense is rated, I think, 5th currently, they have players that are at the top of categories on the defense, and it's a very fast defense, creates a lot of opportunities. So if they can get a little bit more efficient at rebounding, I think that'll be a huge thing for the Storm moving forward. Their rebounding is inconsistent.
Yeah, I know when I saw you on Facebook, when you were, I think you were on the court when you had your microphone and you were giving your report. You were talking about your field goal efficiency and those stats and things like that. So I thought it was really informative. You did a really good job with that.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I try to not look like a dumbass when I'm out there.
No, you did a good job, and I thought your audio, really, really good audio, man. It was good in quality.
Yeah, so that is that microphone. That yeah, so that is a Comico, or no, that is Comica. Comica is the brand of that microphone, and yeah, it's great because it's a normal like broadcast wireless microphone, and there's an adapter that I can plug it directly into my phone. So I recorded a little piece without it just to see the audio, or the audio quality as far as inside the stadium, and you can't hear at all. Like the stadium is so loud, and then with that mic, you could hear me clearly, and it really filtered out all the background noise, and that's all the mic. Like that has.
Wow, that's a hell of a good mic then.
Yeah, no, it's a sweet mic.
Because I really thought like that quality versus here like ABC or CBS or Fox reporters and the mics that they use. I thought that they were comparable. I mean, like you didn't realize there was no. You know what I mean?
It is that caliber of mic.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the only difference there is this one was wireless, and a lot of those mics that they're using for the broadcast are actually wired.
Okay.
So their camera is a lot of times, it's all wireless, but a lot of times that mic will be wired to the camera itself.
Okay.
And that's just because they're really isolating everything except for the person they're talking to. Mine isn't quite that nice because those ones have an extra 0.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. And that extra 0 means a lot.
They say there's no value in a 0, but when it comes after a number, man, it sure adds up.
It does make a difference.
Good stuff. That being said, I mean, it does get us to the top of the hour. It's unfortunate because I wanted to talk about the slide of the Mets, but that'll be tomorrow. And they were killing it, and now they're 2-8 in their last 10, just absolutely falling apart. But
well, that's because they played the Phillies, and we smacked them around a little bit.
That's because they're the Mets. Like,
hey, real quick, Apex. I know we're getting out of it. Apex, me and you, Astros and Phillies. We start our series tomorrow, Bubba.
It's the first time that they go back to that stadium since the World Series.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to that series.
I guess they did go in 23. I think they did go there. Like, so it's, but it's like, I feel like that this is, they were there in 23, and then I think they haven't been there. So since then.
So, Bo, can we put that on the agenda for tomorrow's show? Talk a little Phillies Astros series?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're definitely going to talk baseball because we didn't at all today. I thought we were going to, but the Achilles topic, we spent more time on than I figured we would. But that being said.
Oh, and your next game is with Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
So like that's a little exciting.
We are looking forward to that, Bo. You better get your butt in there. Yeah,
well, I have to get approved for the game. So I have applied for it, but I haven't heard back. In theory, I should hear back something today. And hopefully I will be there for that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Right on. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our stuff to you. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. See y'all tomorrow. We'll talk some baseball. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace.